global oil production has continued to rise over the years. In this video, I will tell you the top 10 largest oil-producing countries in the world 2023. This data was taken from Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Now, let's start in the 10th spot of this list. Number 10. Kuwait. With estimated oil production of around 3,022,000 barrels per day. Unlike many oil-producing countries, this Western Asian nation experienced a severe drop in oil production rates between 2016 to 2021. After dropping to 2,717,000 barrels per day in 2021, the nation's oil production has nearly rebounded to its 2016 levels. That year, production came in at 3,072,000 barrels per day. Kuwait's oil and gas sector accounts for about 60% of the country's GDP, and an even larger share of its export revenues at around 95%. Number 9. Iran. With estimated oil production of around 3,661,000 barrels per day. Iran holds the world's third largest proved oil reserves, as well as the world's second largest natural gas reserves. Despite of its abundant oil reserves, strict economic sanctions imposed in response to its nuclear weapons program. It prevents the country from maximizing the commercial potential of its oil wealth. Iran's vast oil and gas reserves are controlled by the state-owned National Iranian Oil Company, headquartered in its capital, Tehran. Number 8. Brazil. With estimated oil production of around 3,803,000 barrels per day. Brazil is the only Latin American country on this list. It accounts for around 3% of global oil production. The country ended the state monopoly of its exploration and production industry in 1995. Its proved oil reserves and rate of production have increased steadily since. Most of Brazil's oil production is focused on pre-salt deepwater projects in the Santos and Campos basins, located south of Rio de Janeiro in the South Atlantic Ocean. Number 7. United Arab Emirates. With estimated oil production of around 4,237,000 barrels per day. United Arab Emirates has ranked among the world's top 10 oil-producing countries for last decades. In 2022, it saw a significant yearly increase in production. Majority of the country's oil exports goes to Japan, account for around 25% of its GDP. The country holds the world's 8th largest proved oil reserves at 98 billion barrels, with most of those reserves located in Abu Dhabi. United Arab Emirates accounts for 5.6% of global total proved oil reserves. Number 6. Iraq. With estimated oil production of around 4,553,000 barrels per day. The country has seen its oil production decrease significantly in recent years. However, Iraq managed to increase its oil production last year. It holds the world's 5th largest proved oil reserves at 145 billion barrels, that represents 8.4% of global reserves. While it is home to a vast resource of hydrocarbons, development of the country's oil infrastructure has been hampered in recent years by economic sanctions, military conflicts and political upheaval, damaging its capability to generate national revenues from exports. Number 5. China. With estimated oil production of around 5,119,000 barrels per day. China is the world's second most populous country and has a rapid growing economy, factors that have driven its high overall energy demand. More relevant factors are the country's expertise at locating and extracting oil, as well as its political connections and the rules governing where it can and cannot extract oil. For example, most of the oil that China produces are extracted from regions in the Middle East and country of Iran, not the Chinese homeland. In the month of May 2023, the country's oil refineries increased production by 15.4% from last year's output for the month. Number 4. Canada. With estimated oil production of around 5,694,000 barrels per day. Most of Canada's proved oil reserves, around 97% of it, are contained within oil sands in the western province of Alberta. Almost all of the country's oil exports are sent to US markets, roughly 3.7 million barrels per day. However, because of economic and political considerations, Canada is developing ways to diversify its trading partners, especially by expanding ties with emerging markets in Asia. 5 companies account for more than half of Canada's crude oil production. They are Suncor, Canadian Natural Resources, Imperial Oil, Husky and Cenovus. Number 3. Russia. With estimated oil production of around 10,938,000 barrels per day. Russia is the world's largest country by land area. It is also the 3rd largest oil producer that accounts for 10% of global output. This country supplies both oil and natural gas to many countries, particularly in China and Europe. This arrangement caused significant complications when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, triggering many countries in European Union and elsewhere to place an embargo on Russian goods. Most of Russia's oil reserves are located in West Siberia, between the Ural Mountains and the Central Siberian Plateau, as well as in the Urals-Volga region, extending into the Caspian Sea. Number 2. Saudi Arabia. With estimated oil production of around 12,144,000 barrels per day. The country possesses around 15 to 17% of the world's proven petroleum reserves and is the largest petroleum exporter. Like most of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC nations, Saudi Arabia's economy is heavily centered around oil. The oil and gas industry makes up roughly 50% of the country's gross domestic product and 70% of its export earnings. Saudi Arabia also exports natural gas, gold, iron ore, and copper. Number 1. United States. With estimated oil production of around 20,213,000 barrels per day. Being the world's largest oil producer, United States also consumes more oil than any other country worldwide. In fact, this great nation still imports around 8 million barrels of oil per day. This means that the country's huge oil production is still not enough for the oil demand of Americans. The US has been described as a swing producer because its production fluctuates alongside market prices. Texas leads the way as the biggest oil-producing state in the nation, with output nearly 4 times as high as the second biggest oil-producing state, the New Mexico. What can you say about this top 10 oil-producing countries? You can leave your reaction in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.